So now we're going to begin, inshallah, with salat. A salat is root word, or is root. How you would look it up. The root of something, meaning the three letters, sometimes more than that, sometimes 4 letters or 5 letters, but basically most verbs have 3 letters is their root. Their root is called al-jadr. Al-jadr. Al-jadru. Al-jadr. So the jadr for as-salat is wasala, or no, it's not. Sorry, I was going to say that. It's seen or sad, lam, wow. Sad, lam, wow. And the origin of salat is to make dua. That's the origin of the word salat, to make dua. He begins his book with the Adhkar related to the adhan from Hamza al-Noon, right? It's related to the word udhan, it's spelt just like this, ear, right? Your ear, the adhan. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. And 1 second, let me pull up my book. Okay. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا سمعتم المؤذن فقولوا مثل ما يقول ثم صلوا علي فإنه من صلى علي صلاة صلى الله عليه بها 10. This hadith, we don't have to scroll down, is related by Muslim, Rawahu Muslim, number 849, by Amr ibn al-As. Amr ibn al-As. Amr ibn al-As رضي الله عنه قال قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا سمعت المؤذن. Either if or when. سمعتم from سمع, and this is the plural. سمعتم, if you guys hear. And this dhamma here is for reading purposes, just to connect, because otherwise you would have the 2 sukoons next to each other, being the sukoon on the meme and the sukoon on the lam. So you can't have 2 sukoons next to each other, so they put a dhamma there. إِذَا سَمِعْتُمُ الْمُؤَذِّنِ. Mu'adhin, the one who calls the adhan. وَقُولُوا, then, or so, but basically here, then. قُولُوا, command verb. We went over this the other day. We have the word taqulun, meaning you guys say. Taquluna. We want to make it a command. We're going to drop our ta. We're going to bring it to an hamza, or not hamza, just an alif. And we're going to fill in the rest of the verb the way it was until we get to the end. We're going to drop our dhamma. And our dhamma here is used as a noon, so we're just going to drop our noon, place an alif there for protection of our wow, and say ulu. But normally what happens, because the word qawwala is a weak verb and the wow is in the middle, it's weak, Normally what we have is, for instance, tajli suna. Tajli suna. We drop our ta, we add an aleph, and we go through the rest of the stages. Normally our second radical is going to have or our first radical, would have a sukoon on it. Right? Tajlisuna. But because of the weak letter here, it changes its way it works a little bit. So our first letter has a vowel on it, so we don't need our aleph. So we just say Qulu, as we find here. Faqulu, then say. Mithla, similar. Ma, what? Yaqul, he says. Say similar to what he says. Then this this shows us or benefits us something happening in the future. It's like showing a tartib. Like for instance, I could say Muharram drives a car and Zubair owns a house. As an example. This wow just shows an and. It doesn't show any connection. I could say Muharram and Zubair entered the room. It doesn't mean that Muharram came in first. It just meant that they came in the room. Doesn't mean that they came in who, in what order. Where if I say Muharram entered, Thumma Zubair entered, it shows the order. Thumma shows an order. Thumma, then, Sallu alayya. The same here basically with the Sallu. We have a weak word inside of the root, right? Tusalluna would be our talking to a group of people. So we would say, put our aleph, but here we don't need the aleph because the Sod is already have a vowel on it, so we don't put it. So we just say Sallu. Thumma Sallu alayya. Alayya meaning upon me. Just like we have Kitabi, and then we have Baiti. Baiti. Right, this ya is me. So alayya. Then pray upon me. Send salat upon me. فَإِنَّهُ. So anyone, so verily he. So verily, inna he. So verily, he, man salla alayya, whoever prays upon me, salatan, one salat. One salat. How do we know? Because it doesn't have alif lam. Whoever prays upon me, a salat, a singular salat. Sallallahu alayhi, Allah prays upon him. Biha, due to that, meaning due to that one salat. Salat is feminine, so it's a ha here. Due to that one salat, ashara, 10. Whoever prays upon me one salat, Allah prays upon him because of it, 10. Any questions? Abdullah, اقرأ لنا.
قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا سمعتم المؤذن فقولوا مثل ما يقول ثم صلوا علي فإنه من صلى علي صلاة صلى الله عليه بها عشرة.
Ya Zubair.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا سمعتم المؤذن فقولوا مثل ما يقول ثم صلوا علي فإنه من صلى علي صلاة صلى الله عليه بها عشرا.
نعم. يا أبا طاهر.
قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا سمعتم المؤذن فقولوا مثل ما يقول ثم صلوا علي فإنه من صلى علي صلاة صلى الله عليه بها عشرا.
Now, who remembers who narrated it?
Amr.
Amr ibn al-As. طيب. This hadith goes to the next page. So give me a second here. Give me 1 second here. Says this hadith is Sahih Muslim, right? Number 851, right? Sa'ad ibn Waqqas. This hadith from Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من قال حين يسمع المؤذن أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمد عبده ورسوله رضيت بالله ربا وبمحمد رسولا وبالإسلام دينا غفر له ذنبه. He says, من قال, whoever says, حين means at the time. Hina means at the time. Kind of like when. You could translate it as when if you like. من قال حين. Whoever says when, يسمع المؤذن. He hears the muezzin. Or at the time that he hears the muezzin. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمد عبده ورسوله. We know what that is. رضيت بالله ربا. رضيت from رضي, like رضي الله عنه. رضيت means I am pleased. I am pleased. Raditu billahi rabban. I am pleased with Allah as a Lord. Wa bi Muhammadin rasulan. And with Muhammad as a messenger. Wa bil Islami deenan. And with Islam as a religion. Whoever says that, من قال هذا حين يسمع الأذان المؤذن, whoever says this at the time of hearing the muezzin, غفر له ذنبه. غفر is passive. We know who did it. Inside of this, we know who did it. He. We don't know yet. But Gufira shows that we know what was forgiven, but not who forgave it. Although we're talking about Arabic. We know Allah forgave and what He forgave. So, Gufira is passive. It will be forgiven for him, dhanbuhu, his sins. Gufira dhanbuhu lahu. His sins will be forgiven for him. Gufira lahu dhanbuhu. It will be forgiven for him, his sins. Then is sins. Dunub is the plural, right? Who is his sins? And again, this hadith is a Muslim by Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Any questions?
You say his name Waqqas?
Waqqas.
Wow. Waqqas.
If it's not too much to ask, I didn't catch the last hadith, what the number it was.
Of where Allah prays on you 10 times?
No.
849.
Jazakallah khair.
Wa yakum. Any other questions? It's important to have these hadith. Again, these all are by Dar es-Salam, these hadith. When I mention the numbers, the Dar es-Salam version. It's important because some of the wordings are different. Well, I would say, while we're memorizing this, the most important thing would be to memorize the dua. As far as men qala hina yasma'ul mu'adhin, it's up to you. If you go look in 851, the wording here, men qala hina yasma'ul mu'adhin, might be a little bit different. Basically, the Shaykh is not making this a book of hadith, he's making a book of Adhkar and Adab. So he may use this wording a little bit different, or he may have a different version in the Dar es-Salam version as well. So if you want to memorize it, you want to memorize all the extra material outside the wording of the dhikr, then you might want to look inside the Dar es-Salam version and see if you want to memorize what's in the book, or if you want to memorize what's in the Dar es-Salam version, as an example. Right? Because there's different wordings. Go ahead.
Is there a difference between hina and ba'da? Are they interchangeable in the language, or?
No, ba'da means after. Doesn't mean it can't maybe sometime come. Here it doesn't mean. Here means at the time of, and this is important. I'm glad you said it. If you were to look back down, I erased the footnote because I was wanting to write the rest of the hadith so we didn't have to scroll up and down between the two pages, which is kind of difficult, right? أي بعد فراغ المؤذن من الشهادتين. And I translated a book, although we didn't print it yet, called Common or called Sunnah that have been abandoned, like abandoned Sunnah. Sunnah that have been abandoned by the people. And basically, what he says here is when a person says, when the muezzin says, Allahu Akbar, you repeat. Allahu Akbar, you repeat. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, right? Then you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. This is what An-Nawawi says in his commentary of this hadith. An-Nawawi says, when the muadhin says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, raditu billahi rabban, wa bi Muhammadin rasulan, wa bil Islam adina. Actually, if I can come over here and say something, he says it like this. When you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, we know what that is, right? And then here Muhammad Rasulullah. Okay. He says, you say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, you repeat that part, and then you say Raditu billahi rabban, wa bil Islam dinan, wa bil Islam dinan, bi Muhammadin rasulan. After Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, you put the bil Islam second, and bi Muhammad rasulan third. We'll say Allah and the Islam and Muhammad. And then after Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, you say Raditu billahi rabban, wa bi Muhammadin rasulan, wa bil Islam, wa bil Islami, I keep saying Islam, bil Islami dinan. So this is inside the adhan. Many people think that it's after the adhan, and some of the scholars have did it that way, and so have understood it that way, and so some of them say it doesn't matter. You could do it at both times. When you hear Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, you say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, raditu billahi rabban, wa bil Islam adina, wa bi Muhammadin rasulan. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, the muadhin says, you say wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, raditu billahi rabban, wa bil Islam adina, wa bi Muhammadin rasulan. Right? Then you say, then he says Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, you say Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, raditu billahi rabban, wa bi Muhammadin rasulan, wa bil Islam adina. Like that. Okay? So, this is Hina. When you hear the muadhin say this, then you repeat after it along with this dua. And when you hear the muadhin say this, then you repeat after it along with this part of the Raditu billahi rabban. So the Hina means at the time when you hear it. But Hina means at the time. So like, Bad would be after. This is like during.
Okay, Jazakallah khair.
Yeah. That doesn't mean it can't come in some type of form where it might be the same. You understand? Some sentence where they might be interchangeable, but here it's not necessarily. Okay. Muharram.
قال النبي
صلى الله عليه وسلم من قال حين يسمع المؤذن أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله رضيت بالله ربا وبمحمد رسولا وبالإسلام دينا غفر له ذنبه.
عامر.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من قال حين يسمع المؤذن أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله رضيت بالله ربا
نعم ياسين.
وبالإسلام دينا غفر له ذنبه.
عليكم السلام.
السلام عليكم. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من قال حين يسمع المؤذن أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله رضيت بالله ربا وبمحمد رسولا وبالإسلام دينا
No.
غفر له
If you said
ذنبه
غفر له, then غفر له bahu. Then he forgave for him his sins. He forgave what? His sins. So therefore it would be mansub. He forgave for him. But since it's passive, so therefore it would be mansub. And we're not talking about him forgiving. We're talking about his sins being forgiven. So we say غفر له ذنبه. Because the gufira is forgiven is talking about the sins. Where if it was the opposite, if it was said in the active form, then would take the fatha because it would be the object of the verb. But here, this is actually what's being done here, not the object, but it's the actual, almost like the fa'il, but it's not called the fa'il. It's the actual doer of the verb here. It's being forgiven, meaning the sins are being forgiven. If that's clear. So then we got a Yasin and Yasin 1. Them are both you, Yasin? Created that nice autumn echo for us, huh? You sound like you're in the hot room.
using my phone and my laptop. Bad connection.
Maybe you and the bear hooked up. The bear gave you some tips. Okay, the next hadith. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. This is after we're talking about still inside the adhan. And the hadith, this is after we're talking about still inside the adhan. And the hadith number 850. Right? Number 850. ثم قال المؤذن. This is the muezzin here. ثم قال, he said, حي على الصلاة. When he says حي على الصلاة, قال لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. When he says حي على الصلاة, قال, to say لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. So قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم قال. Then when the muezzin says hayya ala salat, come to salat, then say la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And then when he says hayya, thumma qal hayya al falah, come to success, qal la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This hadith is in Muslim from Umar ibn al-Khattab, number 850. Any questions? Okay, Abdullah, read for us.
قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم قال حي على الصلاة حي الصلاة قال لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله ثم
إلا بالله.
إلا
Not billah.
بالله ثم قال حي على الفلاح قال لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
نعم. يا زبير.
قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم قال حي على الصلاة قال لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله ثم قال حي على الفلاح قال لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
نعم يا محرم.
نعم.
اقرأ لنا.
Okay. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم قال حي على الصلاة قال لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله ثم قال حي على الفلاح قال لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
نعم. This next hadith is a lot to write if we were to write the bottom part of it. So I'm just going to write one word of it and then we'll change to the next page when we read this part first. Inshallah. Put our comma there. Okay, the next hadith, and it's narrated by Bukhari.
What was the second one?
From Jabir ibn Abdullah. Bukhari, Jabir ibn Abdullah. And it appears twice, number 614 and number 4319. No, I'm sorry, I wrote that funny. 47, let me see. 40, I wrote it funny in my book, I'm sorry. 4719. 4719. Okay. This hadith from Jabir radiallahu anhu. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من قال حين يسمع النداء. من قال, whoever says حين يسمع النداء. Here we have ba'd here with the meaning of ba'd. Zubair, after he hears the adhan, when he hears the adhan, at the time of hearing the adhan. And nida, as we said, is just another word for the adhan, meaning the call. Right? Whoever says at the time of hearing the adhan, and here would be after, Allahumma Rabba. Allahumma, we said, means what?
Oh Allah.
Oh my Allah. Oh Allah.
Ya Allah. Ya Allah. Except they wanted to put Allah first, and so the Ya became Allahumma.
Is Adhan
Right.
spelled wrong right there? Is
Huh?
Adhan spelled wrong?
No, it's not the adhan. It says an-nida.
Okay, so that's not the Adhan, it's just a call.
But it means the adhan.
Okay.
It's also called the nida. It's called the nida and it's called the adhan. It's called both of them. We're just not used to in English hearing it called the nida, but in Arabic it's easy, the nida. Allahumma, Ya Allah, Rabba. Rabba is mansoob here because it is, let me see here. We have the name, for instance, Abu Tahir. Abu Tahir. If I were to say, and I say it a lot of times in class, Ya, and then we'll go here for a second. We have the name Muhammad. If I were to say Ya Muhammad, nothing changes. Muhammad, Ya Muhammad. Muhammad stays the same. But if I put Ya in front of something which is mudaf ilay, mudaf ilay, then the mudaf part becomes mansoob. Ya Aba Tahir. Ya Abdullah. Because Abd is mudaf ilay. Abdullah. So anytime I put if a mudaf or an idafa construction comes after ya, the mudaf is going to become mansoob. Ya Aba Tahir, Ya Abdullah. So here we have Rabb hadihi da'wa, Rabb ad-da'wa, the Lord of the call, the Lord of this call. This is mudaf ilayh. So you say, Ya Rabba Da'wa, Lord of the call. That's why it's mansoob. Because it is mudaf ilayh. Right? So, Rabbana, which is what we hear all the time. Rabbana. Because it's mudaf ilayh. Who's Lord? Our Lord. The Lord of us. Rabbana. And it's as if the ya is written, but it's not said there. The ya is a call. So basically, anytime I'm calling Abu Tahir, if I'm calling him, I would say Aba Tahir, even if I don't say ya. I would say Aba Tahir, because I'm calling him. I would say, if I'm calling Abdullah, Abdullah, I would say it with a fatha. Even if I don't say the ya, because the call is understood. Right? So, Rabba hadihi da'wa. Allahumma ya Allah. Rabba hadihi da'wa. The Lord of this call. The Lord of this invitation. That's what this is. The adhan is an invitation. Right? At-tama. At-tama, he says here in the footnote, turn back the page. He says, he just says the dawah of the adhan. Dawah to tama, meaning tama from tam, meaning complete and perfect. Something is complete, right? So this dawah to tama takes the tam marbuta because it has to match, right? The adjective matches this. The Lord of this perfect and complete call. Right? The Lord of this perfect and complete call. وَالصَّلَاةُ الْقَائِمَةُ. And the established salat. Qa'im, salat. Right? And it's feminine, so we take the ta marbuta. This established salat. The Lord of this perfect call and the established salah. Ati means to give. The command for to give. Muhammadan. Give who? Give Muhammad. Al-wasila wal-fadila. Al-wasila wal-fadila. The wasila is the place. It says here in the footnote, if we were to go down, it says, منزلة في الجنة لا تنبغي إلا للنبي. A place that only a prophet is given. والفضيلة is the rutbatu za'ida ala sa'ir al-akhlaq, meaning to have a fadila, a virtue over the rest of mankind. To give him a place that only a prophet can have and show his virtue over the rest of mankind. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من قال حين يسمع النداء. Whenever a person or whenever he hears at the time of hearing the call, he says, Allahumma, O Allah, Rabba hadhihi da'wat at-tama, the Lord of this perfect and complete call, wa salatul qa'ima, and the established salat, ati Muhammadan al-wasilata wal-fadila. Give him. This is where you have two objects in this sentence. We have two objects. The first one is give who? Give Muhammad. Give him what? Give him al-wasila wal-fadila. So they're all going to be mansub because they're all objects of the act, of the give. Right? وابعث مقاما محمودا. وابعث مقاما محمودا. وابعثه. And resurrect him from ba'atha. Ba'atha wab'athhu. Resurrect him maqaman mahmudan. Meaning give him at the time of his resurrection the maqam al-mahmud, which is the greatest shafa'a. The shafa'a where he begins the day of judgment. Where all the people have been gathered, all the people have been, they're sweating, the sun is to, their sweat is to their ankles, to their knees, to their hips, to their chest, to their mouths. Some of them are drowning in their sweat, except those who Allah has shaded on that day with his shade, when there's no shade except his shade. So the people will come to Adam and say, "Oh Adam, you are our father. Allah created you with his own two hands. He put you in the garden, intercede for us." He say, "No, I ate from the tree when I wasn't told to." And we know the hadith, it's famous. Then they go to Noah, then they go to Musa, then they go to Ibrahim and Isa, and finally they come to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he intercedes, and Allah begins the day of judgment. This is the Maqam al-Mahmud, that intercession which begins the day of judgment. Begins the actual judgment to take place. Right? وَابْعَثْهُ مَقَامًا مَحْمُودًا الَّذِي which وَعَدْتَهُ. وَعَدْتَهُ from وَعَدَ, meaning to promise. وَعَدْتَهُ, you promised him, which you promised him. And this is different than wa'id. Wa'ada or wa'dun is a promise of good, while wa'id is a promise of evil. So the wa'd is for the believer, and the wa'id is for the kafir and for the mujrim, the criminal. Whoever says that dua, halat lahu, from halal, right? Halat lahu, it becomes halal for him. Shafa'ati, my intercession. My intercession, Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of judgment. Whoever says this dua, when he hears the muaddin, then the Prophet ﷺ said, my intercession becomes halal for him, or permissible for him, Yawm al-Qiyamah. There's a lot going on in this hadith. It's long. It's spread over 2 pages. It's not really long. It's just spread over 2 pages. And
قال
so
النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم
it's a little bit
من
difficult from
قال
that aspect.
حين
Any questions?
يسمع النداء اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمد
Okay, Amir.
وسيلة
I'm going to have these guys read the first.
والفضيلة
I can scroll down. Go ahead.
وابعثه
Go ahead and read it.
مقاما محمودا
You have the book or the PDF in front of you, then you can scroll down on your own and I don't have to. It's up to you.
الذي وعدته حلت له شفاعتي يوم القيامة.
نعم أبو طاهر.
قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من قال حين يسمع النداء اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آتي محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته حالت له شفاعتي يوم القيامة.
الله يبارك فيكم. Yasin, you got your microphone. But he, I know, wanted. I don't know. You want to read, Yasin? It's echoing when I talk. It's not going to echo when you talk, inshallah.
قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Can you hear me?
Yes.
من قال حين يسمع النداء اللهم رب هذه الدعوات التامات والصلاة القائمة آتي محمدا وسيلة والفضيلة وابعث مقام محمود الذي وعدته حلت له شفاعتي يوم القيامة.
No. Let's see. We can get this next one, inshallah. دخول المسجد والخروج منه. دخول المسجد والخروج. The entering of the masjid and leaving out from it. دخول, entrance, from دخل. والخروج منه, and exiting it from خرج, leaving out from it. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا دخل أحدكم المسجد, and this dhamma here is for us if we're going to continue. أحدكم المسجد, otherwise it would be a sukoon. إذا دخل أحدكم المسجد, if you enter what? You enter the masjid. It's the object of the entering, therefore it's mansoob, the maf'ul here. إذا دخل أحدكم المسجد فليقول, then let him say. This fa, so, the lam is kind of like let. It's a command here. It makes it a command, but it's connected to a present tense verb. Then let him say. And so, since it's a command, it becomes majzoom with a sukoon on it. فليقول, and we know يقولوا. Right? Yaqulu. Since we have two sukoons here, sukoon on the lam, sukoon on the waw, we drop the weak letter. Falyaqul. Right? Falyaqul. Allahumma. Ya Allah. Allahumma iftah li abwab rahmatik. Iftah from fataha, meaning to open. So you're telling Allah, open. It's a command, but you're not commanding Allah to do anything. It's called a talab. It's called a talab, a request. Right? Iftah li, for me. Open for me. Open for me what? Abwaba. Again, mansoob, because it's the object of the fath. Object of the opening. افتح لي أبواب
Where are
رحمتك.
you now?
مضاف إليه of your mercy. أبواب رحمتك. افتح لي أبواب رحمتك.
Breaking up there.
Can anyone hear me?
3 messages.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Sure.
You still there?
I'm talking now. Can
Yeah.
anyone hear me?
Yes. No. Yeah.
No.
If I talk and everyone, okay. Inshallah, I can't hear you guys for some reason. Saying the sound quality or something. So I'm just going to finish and then we can read it tomorrow, inshallah. إذا دخل أحدكم المسجد فليقول اللهم افتح لي أبواب رحمتك. Open for me the doors or the gates of your mercy. However you want to translate it. Abwab, it could be better to be doors. The doors of your mercy. The plural of bab. Right? Bab rahmatik. So this is the dua or part of or one of the du'as that you can say when you enter into the masjid. Allahumma iftah li abwab rahmatik. Because that's why we're going into the masjid, to receive his mercy. As opposed to فَإِذَا خَرَجَ. So if you come out, if he comes out, فَلْيَقُولْ, let him say, Allahumma, O Allah, Ya Allah, inni, verily I, as'aluka, I ask you, as'aluka, from sa'ala, as'aluka, as'alu is I ask, as'aluka, I ask you, min, from fadlik, from your grace or your bounties, your virtues. But here we're talking about the fadl, the virtues of the dunya. So when you go into the masjid, you're asking for rahmah. When you come out, you're asking for fadl or bounties. So when you go in, you escape from all the chaos of the world. And when you come out, you want Allah to give you the bounties that He has stored for the believers in the world. So, as'aluka min fadlik, from your bounty. And I can't hear anyone for some reason, and the time is really up. So, inshallah ta'ala, I apologize for that. But tomorrow, we will read this hadith. We'll begin here, and then we'll go back. If there's any questions, then brothers can just text them to me, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khairan for your patience and your husn ta'awun, your good cooperation and learning. And jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.